Hey there, everyone. Steve Gonser, physical therapist with Run Smart Online. Happy morning to you. It's the weekend. I want to share with you, I'm going to try to make connections with this guy or gal, looks like it's a guy, about run form. Because if you do these things, I'm telling you, you can get, if you learn this, you can run faster, you can get injured less, all the good things that you want, and it doesn't take a lot of work. We live in this world where runners want to run more, they want a more speed workout, they think expensive shoes or off-the-shelf products can really help change their path or trajectory for running, when really it's about form, right? So everything in life comes down to form. There's a proper way to do things. I'm going to show you with this guy because I think it's really easy to see that. Now when we watch most people run, they like to do this kind of thing, right? They like to have this leg out to the front. The easiest way to know if you do this is to check the bottom of your shoes. If your bottom of your shoes have the outside corner of the heel worn down, you run like this. Or you can just check race photos. A lot of times people in the race photos are like this, and like, wow, am I running? Is that what I look like? Which tends to be different than what we think about and what we think in our heads. So if we just look at the skeleton quick. Now, traditionally people like to run like this. They like to take that leg, they like to reach out the front, and they like to hit their heel first. What I want to show you is, remember, you're coming into the ground, right? Running is just jumping over and over again, and the ground's going to come up and push into you. So look, if the ground's going to push into you, what's that force? That force is backwards, so you have to overcome that force. So that any time that you do this, your foot's going to slap to the ground, and then the knee has to bend, and then you catch and you pull that leg through. What we want to do is you want to try to limit this, okay? So here comes analogy number one. When runners run this way, it's like driving your car down the road and tapping the brakes. Every time this leg enters the ground like this, it's a tap of the brakes. The average runner takes about 80 steps a minute, and when you take both legs into account, that's 160 times a minute. So drive your car down the road, tap the brakes 160 times, and see how jerky that and inefficient that movement is. That's what we're getting at here, right? So what we want to do, and I'll just show you this again, a straight knee is all bone. Watch this. I can push down on this, it's going nowhere because I'm loaded through the skeleton and the bones. We don't want to run that way. Increased force to the knees is number one, but it also causes slower running by tapping the brakes. So when you think about run form, you should be realizing or trying to go through, and I'll show you the movement, but we want to get you to a landing point where you have, now this is elevated a little bit so it wouldn't be like this, but if you can land with a vertical shin, 90-degree angle at the foot and ankle, what's going to happen is the ground's going to now push up, and when the ground pushes up, it does this, right? That's the force of the ground to the skeleton. That hinging motion, what is that? That's going to be your quad, your glute, your calf, your hammies, your low back catching you. It's going to be the muscles that are going to catch you, not the bones. Now, I'll tell you the second analogy here. When you run like this, you engage your natural rubber bands. Okay, muscles and tendons have this natural elastic ability. So this is the perfect example. I feel like sometimes like a clown like pulling something out, but maybe I am. Someone's probably going to leave a comment. By the way, if you have questions, drop them in the comments. I'm going to swing around at the end, make sure that I answer anyone's questions here this morning. But when you run this way, you're going to load the muscles and tendons. You're not going to be loading into the bone. Here's the nice thing about that. Number one, your muscles are like rubber bands, and when you stretch them, they have this natural ability, they have this natural ability to recoil. The cool thing about this that you need to realize is that natural ability to recoil, no calories. It is free energy, free speed. You're going to engage those muscles in their natural elasticity or their natural rubber bands, and that push off, they're going to launch you forward. Okay? So by running and changing from this, and I tell you, this is not going to give you any rubber band speed. Learning to run this way is, and the nice thing about this is you're not tapping the brakes either. So when we look at this, analogy one, tapping the brakes. Analogy two is running midfoot by getting this vertical shin. This is what we're teaching in the midfoot project that's coming up soon. So the last thing, and I know you're thinking like, do I really need to work on this? My run form's not that bad. There's always improvement to have in your run form. Your quality is always going to make a difference because as runners, you're going to be taking 80 steps a minute on average. 30,000 steps. Just if you run a marathon, that's not even counting the training. Every step can make a difference in the longevity of your training, but also when you get to race day. Sore knees, stiff knees, recurring injuries, disappointment on race day, all this stuff is often a run form problem. If your training is good and you're doing some strength workouts, you should be focused on this because you're taking so many steps. You might as well take the right step, right? So here's what the third analogy for you is my diving board analogy, okay? What traditionally happens, I'm going to use this foot, when people try to change their run form. They're trying to change from this bone bashing to a nice vertical shin and the ground pushes up, is that they overshoot. They end up landing towards the front of their foot. So this is important because if you're going to change your run form, you can't make this mistake. They end up coming through, and instead of keeping the foot vertical to the ground, they let the foot point down. And what they end up doing is loading the calf hard. So imagine, real quick, just look at this shin. Should have took this off. But anyways, look at the shin. If the foot can face straight ahead and you hit the ground, you're going to engage the whole foot and you're going to be spread out with that force. Here's what people do. Remember, questions, drop them in the comments. They end up landing towards the front of the foot, right? And when they land towards the front of their foot, they have to load down because now the ground force isn't doing this. The ground force is pushing up on the toes. What controls that? Your Achilles. So when people try to fix this themselves, this is what I don't want you to do, is land on the toes and overload the calf. The most elastic rubber band, the biggest rubber band in your body is your Achilles tendon. If you overload that, it's kind of like walking to the end of a diving board, jumping on the end of the diving board, and throwing yourself up in the air. You take this force through your Achilles, you load it hard, and then at push-off, it launches you up in the air. It's something that we've been doing this for 10 years. It's the number one thing that people mess up when they try to go to a midfoot strike. We have some cool drills that help fix that, but the key thing is you have to be willing and wanting to fix your run form in the first place because, you know, there's three main pillars that I think of, and I'm sure there's other ones out there that people argue with. You have your run form, your strength, and your training. Run form is huge. Every other athlete knows this. Linemen in the NFL, you think they're working on technique? Damn right they are. Swimmers, triathletes out there, how much time do you spend on stroke work? Where runners, we just think, I'm just going to throw my shoes on and run down the road, or I'll grab a pair of shoes that'll change my run form. It's not about that. It's about you working on form because 80 steps a minute, over the course of a week, over the course of years, millions of steps with just bad form can wreak havoc on you. I'm going to check your questions here, but if you're interested in learning more about this, midfootproject.com. We're going to teach you everything over the last 10 years that we learned that makes this an easy transition so you can improve your run form, so you can run fast, you can stop tapping the brakes, you don't have to run off your diving board, and you can engage those natural rubber bands in your body so you can run faster. So let's just see if we have any questions. I probably don't because everyone's probably having breakfast here. So do tight hamstrings. Thanks, Brian's got a question about tight hamstrings. Here's the interesting thing. If you have tight hamstrings, let's just look at this for a second because that's a huge concern mostly with a lot of guys. Tight hamstrings will not cause heel striking, but if you have tight hamstrings and you heel strike, it's a huge problem. So look at this. This is, again, how most people run. I'm just going to turn this guy to the side here. Your hamstring is attached to your sit bone here. Hopefully you guys can see this. Attached to your sit bone here, and they cross the knee below. The more this leg comes out to the front, the more strain through the hamstrings. Because when you run this way, the runner's going to hit the ground. You have to get this foot to go that way, right? So what people have to do is they have to catch and pull from their hamstring to pull the body over the foot. And when you do that, there's a lot of pulling and strain to the hamstrings. When you way overstride, it is a killer on your hammies. So people who have like their hammies cramping up or they're just getting a lot of tightness in the back of the leg, if you run this way, I mean, you're asking for it at that point. You know, the key things I think that are caused from this is a lot of knee discomfort, knee stiffness, you know, noisy knees going up and down the stairs, tightness in the hamstrings, some back pain, and also, you know, you look at the lower foot, a lot of Achilles injuries and plantar fascia injuries come from this style of running. So it's something that you know, you're not going to avoid all injuries, but you can certainly, a lot of people I believe can definitely cut down on the amount of injuries. 80% of people are hurt every year. 80. And now run form's not going to be the cure-all for that, but when you add exercises, you add smarter training, you can really, a lot of people can just, take their injuries from here to here pretty quickly. In the course of, our midfoot project is only 5 weeks long, and that's enough sometimes just to dampen down the amount of aggravation your body's going through, because as you get older, most of the runners we work with are over 40, the joints have a little bit more wear. If you're over 50 and 60, you want to protect those joints as much as possible. Your muscles and your tendons can heal themselves. Muscles more than tendons, more so, but bones, once those bones are gone, the joints and the cartilage are gone, you're kind of in trouble. So hopefully that helps you out, Bri. Is foot strike the cause of knee tendonitis or overuse? So let's talk about that. So I'll go through these questions. Just keep dropping them. I'm going to be here for a little bit, and I can answer some of these questions. Is foot strike the cause of knee tendonitis or overuse? So foot strike, what we know is that a lot of knee issues can be prevented by changing foot strike. But here's the thing I want you guys to understand, is that with foot strike is a byproduct of the knee. When we teach at the Midfoot Project, we don't necessarily teach so much about trying to land midfoot as we try to change your knee position. Because as this leg swings through, if we can get you to stop that big swing coming through, and we get you to put that foot down flat and stop the swing and then come down, there's your foot strike. We know that when you run this way, the knee goes through significantly more load, and I would go ahead and tell you that run form and glute strength are the two things that would cause most of your knee injuries. So when we do the Midfoot Project, we actually give exercises to work on balance and strength up at the hips, so you can get stronger glutes, glute med, glute max, all those strong glute butt muscles and hip muscles. And then we teach the run form part. So from a knee standpoint, learning how to improve your glute strength and improve your run form is really, really important. I gotta keep walking around because I can't see the screen. Let's see, what do I do if my calves start to cramp up when jogging? A lot of times, who wrote that? Marina. So a lot of times we look at cramping. Cramping can be from diet, it can be from run form, it can be from a lot of things. Sometimes what we see is poor run form causing cramping because people tend to come through and they land on their toes real hard. And when they land on their toes, they get overworked in the calf. So we'll see people calf cramp because they're running down the road on their toes. So that's the overshooting. This program, the Midfoot Project, is really great for anyone who's overstriding, who is heel striking with the straight knee, or overshooting the other way and landing on their toes. But that could definitely be causing some calf cramping, is landing on the toes. Ryan mentions, I've been modifying run form to midfoot, have experienced calf muscle soreness post-run. Is this normal during the modification process? So yeah, so what we do is when you're going to change the midfoot, so when you change your run form, remember we're going from bone to muscle. The muscle is not used to catching you on your stride. This is really important. This is a great question. You're actually going to find when you're transitioning your run form, your muscles are going to get sore because they're just not used to the workload. So we actually have this little formula that we use. Basically, you want to just slowly add in the midfoot. You can't just start running midfoot because you will end up hurting yourself. The muscles are not used to it. We actually, do a little dial on. We have this little system you follow. We teach you that in the Midfoot Project. But you're going to get sore if you overdo it. If you go too quick with the midfoot running, you will absolutely hurt yourself. The calf is the #1 spot, especially if you're overreaching and landing on the toes. So great question. With that, make sure you're slow with it. We have a system for that as well. I think that's all we got for a little bit. Remember, midfootproject.com. We are launching soon. We're in the final days here. If you're interested, I encourage you to check it out. You can send us a message on Facebook asking any of your questions if you're wondering if it's right for you. But we're excited to get started. We have a great group of runners already signed up, and we're going to be kicking off here soon. So if you personally want to come work with myself and Patrick O'Connor over 5 weeks to learn how we fix all this stuff, go to midfootproject.com. And otherwise, have a great day, everyone, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.